This program may contain elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Discretion is advised. When you look into the face of darkness, it stares back at you. The question is, who's watching who? Welcome to the dark side. This is the Watchers Paranormal Podcast.
In the summer of the year 2000, after the world had celebrated Y2K, Mark decided to build a deck. When the deck was completed, he called a bunch of his friends over and colleagues and decided to throw a party, a barbecue. He would invite everyone over to celebrate, show off his deck. Lots of food, beer, wine, hors d'oeuvres, you name it, cake, everything was there. So the party starts off really good. Started early evening, sun was still up. Everyone made their way to the deck, grabbed a beverage, some food, mingled. Some of the people there knew each other already. Little small talk here and there. Mark came out, brought some more hors d'oeuvres. The night was going good. Party was awesome. People were having a good time. Then suddenly, there was a rattle on his patio door. Now, Mark's house is a walkout right to the deck. So as soon as you step out of the basement, you're right on the deck, it's flush. And he had sliding panel glass doors. So he heard a bit of a rattle there, so thought nothing of it. Continued talking with the guests, mingling. Went inside, got out the food that he was going to barbecue. A couple of friends gave him a hand, brought the stuff out. So at this point, everyone is on the deck. If you've ever experienced on a windy day, sometimes when two sliding doors might rattle against each other slightly with the force of the wind there. That's what this sounded like. It was like a little rattle, like a vibration. So everyone kind of looked back and said, okay, well, it's not windy, and is it an earthquake? So everyone started to think, well, if it was an earthquake, I guess we would have felt it under our feet, but we didn't feel anything. But just something not happening near that door there. But oh well. So party continued. People were having a good time. And then this time the vibration on the patio door got stronger. You could almost sense like a hum, like a, like like that, back and forth. And Mark says, I've had enough of this. I says, I don't know what's going on here. So he goes inside with a couple of the friends there, and they're on the inside of the house now. So they're kind of just hanging out, talking. And then a little bit of time went by, maybe 20 minutes or so, and nothing happened, but they decided they were going to stay there for a little bit longer. One of the friends decided to take over the barbecue duties, so he was outside manning the barbecue. So they continued talking, and then they heard a small hum start again, and they're all looking at the door, and sure enough, the patio door, you could see the glass just vibrating ever so lightly. So Mark walks over really quick and puts his hand on the door. And as soon as he put his hand on the door, he let go right away. And I said, well, what happened? He says, it not only is it vibrating, but he says, I'm feeling some energy on that. He goes, here, put your hand on the door. So friend walks over, puts his hand on the door. And as soon as he gets close with his fingertips, he felt like what he says was like a shock, static shock. So I'm sure you've all experienced what that feels like. I personally don't like those at all. So they stood back and thought, well, why is this happening? Is there a short somewhere? Something wrong with the wiring? Or is there any contact being made? So they're looking around. It is a finished basement. There's no, loose wires hanging around. Nothing dangly. Nothing that would make up for that sensation or what was happening at that moment. So they went outside and they started to tell the rest of the guests of what was happening. And of course, all these stories started coming out, and people started talking about similar experiences. And the food was just about ready to be served, so they all took their seats on the table there that had been placed on the deck. And decided to have a nice dinner, a few toasts, talk about old times, reminisce. So now as the party continues into the early evening, everyone's eaten, had a few drinks, just talking about old times and everything that happened before Y2K. Remember, Y2K was a big thing that year. So Mark was sitting there a little uneasy, just thinking about what had happened earlier and trying to come up with an explanation. Suddenly there's a low-pitched hum coming from near the window, or the glass rather. And it starts to intensify slowly. So Mark turns around and looks at his friends, and they're all looking at him, and he's looking at the door, and they're like, what is going on? Like, so you can hear a slight hum getting a little louder and louder. Then the glass in the door starts to vibrate slightly. So they all stood up and they kind of gathered around the door, trying to figure out where this was coming from. And then the humming got a little louder, the vibration in the door started getting a little more intense. And then all of a sudden, one of his friends said that he smelled like something burning, like electrical. And they all slowly started to smell that. And they looked around, and of course the barbecue had been off and there was no fire anywhere. And then Mark thought right away, perhaps it's an electrical fire happening inside the walls. But you could smell that, but there was no smoke. Anyway, the vibration on the window starts to intensify and intensify. And now the glass is starting to vibrate more. And now you could actually see it. As the door starts to vibrate more and more, one of the friends notices a strange smell in the air. He says it smelled something like burning wires or an electrical fire. So Mark got freaked out right away and went to grab the handle to open the door, and he couldn't open the door, and it was like as if it was locked. And he let go right away, and they said, "What's wrong?" And he says, "I don't know, I didn't get shocked, but I just feel this energy on the door. I had to let go. It was just too powerful." So a couple of his friends laughed at him and came up and grabbed the door handle, and they let go right away, and they thought, "Oh my God." So they weren't sensing heat. It was just an energy. So they backed off. And all of a sudden that smell started getting stronger